Okay, this video will discuss using the print module and preparing an image for print. And we are going to be using just one single image in this video. There will be another video that you can look at with regards to the print module for multiple images, creating a contact sheet. This is just for one single image. Okay, so in the previous video, if you haven't seen it, please take a look at creating a print collection. We created a print collection with one image in it. I'm currently viewing that print collection right now, and it has this image of the barn in Montana. I'm going to go ahead and select that and take it to the print module. Because we already created this print collection in the previous video, we no longer see this button up here that says create save print. If you see that button and you created a print collection already before, please make sure you are actually selected your print collection and you're not in another collection altogether. So I'm going to go ahead now and make adjustments to this layout and prepare this photograph to be printed. First thing you want to do is go to the page setup on the bottom left, and we're going to determine orientation and then paper size. Your image may not look like this in terms of its layout when you bring it into Lightroom. For example, maybe it's a horizontal image like this, but it's being shown vertical. So let's make sure that we're looking at your image correctly the way you want to see it in Lightroom. So click on page setup, and in case that your image is not being shown in its proper orientation, like say for example, I'm going to make it look incorrect by clicking on this orientation right now. By clicking on the vertical orientation, and hold on, that should be like that, sorry. Let's say it looks like this for you, and you don't want to be turning your head to the side while you're creating this layout. Go ahead to the page setup, click on that, and make sure that your orientation is horizontal. Okay, let's talk about paper size right now. In the format 4, I want you to select any printer, not for any specific printer. And in the paper size, while we are going to be creating a US letter size paper, we don't want to use the preset, because if you notice in the preset, it tells us that while it is 8.5 and 11 inches, which is the correct size for a US letter, it has these built-in margins already. 0.25 top, 0.56 in the bottom, 0.25 left, 0.25 right. I want a US letter sized paper but with 0 margins, so I have complete control of my margins in this module. So I'm going to go into manage custom sizes, and I'm going to create my own US letter that's 8.5 by 11. So I'm going to click on this plus sign, and I'm going to give it a title here by clicking on the untitled one more time, and I'm going to say 8.5 by 11, 8.5 by 11, and I'm going to put US letter, no margins. That's the title. I'll hit enter. That's the title. Now let's actually give it those specifications. So the size of this is 8.5 by 11, which it ended up defaulting here, but you may have to actually enter this 8.5 by 11. And then in this non-printable area, I want to zero out all of these margins, top, bottom, left, and right. So they all say 0. So once again, the paper size is 8.5 by 11 inches and 0 margins all around, and it's called, I gave it a name, 8.5 by 11 US letter, no margins. That's just for my reference. Now hit OK, and then remember I selected this so it'll correct our view of the horizontal, so I'm going to hit OK, and now your image should at least be in the right orientation. If you had a vertical, then you would make sure you select the appropriate orientation in that page setup window. Now let's go to the right side of the print module under layout style. Make sure you select single image / contact sheet, and under here, under image settings, go ahead and make sure zoom to fill is unchecked, and you can uncheck rotate to fit. Okay, and make sure all these are unchecked for now. This, by the way, stroke border is if you wanted a border around your image. That's an option there too. Let's just not use that for now. Here under the margins, this is where you can have now full control of your image layout on this page. So you can now fully take the image and adjust the margins on the left margin, the right margin, top, and then bottom. You can, I would zero them all out so we know exactly what we're dealing with and how much space we have on the paper. Okay, I'll zero all that stuff out first, and then this page grid, just leave it 1 to 1 for now. It's only one image. Okay. Now on the cell size, this is actually giving you the dimensions of this printable area. It's the cell. So the height of this image I can adjust on this paper, and then on this width I can adjust it with using the slider. Okay. And if I were to maximize both the height and width, notice that, and this is what's called printing to bleed, by the way, where you actually set your layout to have the image go all the way to the edge without any particular margin on it. This right here is printing to bleed from left to right. The reason why we have a top and bottom white border is because this paper size, if you remember, we chose 8.5 by 11. Your sensor does not have the same ratio as a US letter dimension. So I repeat, the reason why we have this top and bottom border is because the image coming out of your camera based upon your sensor's dimensions are not the same ratio as a US letter. It's more like 8 by 12 is the ratio for your sensor. So had we created an 8 by 12 paper size, then this would have been a full bleed on the page. Not all printers, not all print labs have an 8 by 12, but I would say 8.5 by 11 US letter, they would have that size that's available. But you end up leaving with this top and bottom border. So if you were to go back up to the image settings here, if you wanted to fill this whole page up with the image, you can always click on zoom to fill. So now the image is completely filled up in on this paper, and you can actually click on it and move it around to adjust your image. The problem is it's cropping your image, right? This is no longer an uncropped version of your image. It's cropped, you could tell, because I can move it around within this space. So I particularly do not like to crop the image so it can fit on a paper. I like to have the paper fit the image. So that's what we're going to do, is do that. I'm going to uncheck that, and then now I'm just going to add some more maybe margins or a border on the left and right, so it kind of evens this print out a little bit more. So what I want to do is on the left side, maybe I'm going to put you can actually put 0.15, you can actually type it in there. Maybe I'm going to go a quarter, 0.25, and on the right 0.25, and then that looks a little bit better. I'm okay with that, right? My image is not cropped, it fits in the paper, and I don't need it to go full bleed. That's completely fine. Okay. Now once you've made your margins and you've adjusted the cell size accordingly, you can scroll down to the bottom of the right side here where it says print job. So now what I want to do is I want to get this layout ready and make this image ready to be sent as a file to a print lab. All right. So that is done in this particular section under print job, and we're going to cover that in the next video.